You guys just say stuff.
There we go.
Good day. My name is Dr. Gal Luft. For the past 20 years, I have been the co-director of the Institute for the Analysis of Global Security, a Washington-based think tank focused on energy security. For the past 15 years, I've been a resident of Israel. And for 4 years, I was senior advisor to the China energy company CEFC, at the same time of its dealings with the Biden family. Under normal circumstances, I would be testifying before Congress about my experience with CEFC. Sadly, due to circumstances I shall describe here in this video, I am forced to tell you this story via video. My ordeal goes back to a fatal decision I made in March of 2019 to share with the US government my knowledge about the Biden family's relations with CEFC. As I said, it was in March of 2019 in a 2-day session at the US Embassy in Brussels. I insisted that the meeting take place in March because at the time there were rumors that Joe Biden was planning to run for president.
To the Friends of Zeus podcast. Tonight we are on episode 126. That's 126. You can find us everywhere, on everything, in every place. Tonight we are going to talk more about the never-ending stream of corrupt behavior in our current White House. Tonight is Mike's show. He has some stuff that he wants to talk about things, so I'm going to hand it over to him. And please excuse me if I'm overly jolly tonight, because I'm just in a great mood.
Had a great burger, man.
I had a fucking fantastic burger.
It's very nice.
Mike,
yeah.
Show.
All right. So I'd like to welcome everyone back welcome myself back because I wasn't here.
Welcome back.
I don't know where you guys were last week. Yeah, I literally during the episode, I think Desiree said I was taking a nap or something, which is actually true. I woke up at like 9:40 or whatever, and I was like, "Oh crap!" Anyway, it is what it is. Last week was crazy.
We don't need you. We just need your ideas.
I think that's the third one I missed, and it's the second one I slept through the beginning of. So that's the second time that's happened. So tonight. Again, it's going to be probably fairly familiar topic for our viewer out there, but there's some new news in the Biden crime family corruption story, which, you have to, if you have a podcast like we do, like Friends of Zeus podcast, we have to cover this because apparently the rest of the party media does not like to cover this. So I feel obligated to use our little platform to at least bring some knowledge to the people out there. But one thing I'd like to do, just because these are both, in my opinion, pretty enormous news stories that just happened within the last 24 hours. So I did a little 2-screen slideshow here.
Nice.
Because I just felt
little production.
I'd be remiss if we didn't at least touch on these. And let's see if I've got this. Can you guys see that okay? Let's see.
Not yet.
It says you've started to share. There we go.
There it is.
Hold on. Okay, can you see my little screen with the pictures on it?
Yes.
I love me some Tylenol murder stories.
So the first story, and again, these are, I just got to mention these. I don't want to necessarily, we can talk about them, but
But this
I
is
don't.
like circa 1982, right? Somewhere around there.
1982. It's still officially
shit.
unsolved. This guy, James Lewis, who is the only one who was ever, I guess, prosecuted in relation to it, he just died in the last 24 hours or so, which is why it's back in the news again. It happened in Chicago. 7 people died from cyanide poisoning. I think it was 4 all in one day, and then 3 in the ensuing weeks, and then there were probably another dozen.
Yeah, there were a bunch that they couldn't like directly connect to it, but there were more Tylenol murders if I remember.
Yeah, there
New
were
episode on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should, and that's a good idea. And so I just wanted. This was a seminal event, at least for me in my childhood, because it like I never in a bazillion years would have thought that someone would just randomly poison something in a grocery store. And luckily it doesn't happen all the time. But at the time, I remember as a kid, I wouldn't say it traumatized me, but I was definitely following this story and interested
Yeah, I
in it.
remember it. Yeah.
And I mean, it was on the news constantly, and it was the only thing I can really compare it to is like the DC sniper story. Like it
Yeah.
as far as like just this
I was gonna say,
helplessness.
At
no
the
one,
time,
yeah,
that was also when Wayne Williams did the Atlanta child murders.
No, wait.
It was right around, I'm pretty
82.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I thought you were comparing it to the sniper. That was later.
Yeah.
No,
Sniper was 02, I think, 2002. But one thing I didn't know, and just this one little picture here with Kaczynski, there was actually a time back in the 90s, because there's people that are hobbyists, that follow like true crime, that have been talking about this case for 40 plus years. But there was actually a time in the 90s where people were theorizing that Kaczynski may have been behind it, just because although the method was different, the MO was pretty similar. But I think the big legacy for people who don't remember this happening is the tamper-proof containers we have now.
And the cotton.
And a direct result of all this stuff. I mean, and the fact that you used to be able to open up a bottle of aspirin and there's just aspirin there is kind of funny.
a piece of cotton maybe, but
yeah. Now it's like everything's sealed. So anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to the story. It's sad, for the people that died, and this guy who maintained his innocence. He lived in New York. He wasn't in Chicago at the time. But what he did was he sent a letter to Johnson & Johnson trying to extort them for $1 million, saying that it would keep happening unless they sent him $1 million. So that's what he was convicted of. But they never actually pinned him. He said he was just doing it, as a jerk, that he wasn't the one that actually poisoned anything. But
I just say,
yeah,
his comparing those two pictures, he looks almost exactly the same, if not for the gray in his beard and hair.
apparently
Yeah.
murder is the fountain of youth.
Well, it's funny. Like, I looked into this only for like 5 minutes, and a couple things made me laugh. One, I forgot about this, but then I think I remembered. So this started in October of 82, and it had a huge effect on Halloween that year. From what I had read, like candy sales nationwide were down like 20%.
Well, they used to give out Tylenol all the time.
Well, right, no more Tylenol. I mean, back Des, you may not remember this, Des, but people used to give out like amphetamines and Tylenol and Band-Aids and all that stuff. But
you
I
were
never
only
got any
4
amphetamines.
in 1982,
Oh.
Mike. You're
I'm
much
sorry?
younger than us, right?
yes,
So-
I barely remember it. I think I was still in diapers. The other funny thing that really, it's not funny, but it made me laugh is this. I just looked into this guy, James Lewis, being a suspect. And he was convicted for attempted murder on his own mother with an axe. Like
Wow.
a few years before this. So I'm thinking, man, they just got the wrong guy. I'm like, okay, he's literally a convicted axe attempted murderer, which is amazing. So
And,
anyways,
in the younger picture, not so crazy eyes. In the older picture, distinct crazy eyes.
Yeah, he's got some crazy eyes. So
Just because the tint isn't there. He doesn't have the tinted glasses.
yeah, the tinted glasses, that's like
Covers up the crazy.
that's like the David Koresh glasses, man.
like crazy camouflage.
I couldn't remember how to do the text on the screen here. That's why I hand wrote
does
Tylenol.
look
Oh
a
no,
bit like-
I think that's actually
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty effective,
It's
Mike.
like axe murderer font.
Yes, it looks like
Does
a
look a bit
murderer's
like he looks a
handwriting.
bit like James DeFeo, doesn't he?
maybe a bolder
that?
line, maybe the line
The Amityville guy.
Oh yeah, and Zeus is right. A bolder line probably would have been a better
bolder
choice.
line, but the red, maybe a little drop of blood, even though Tylenol murders didn't cause blood. But
Well,
who cares?
No,
Yeah.
it looks like a horror movie poster as it is.
We're not in
Nice
a
job, Mike.
fact-driven world.
So I think, and I second Desiree's nomination. I would love to do an episode on this because not only is the original story interesting, but since it's unsolved, there are just it is such a deep topic. There's so many theories. There's so many tangents.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
fascinating. It really is
You know,
fascinating.
If you look at
Cool.
any true crime podcast on this, it's never like one episode. It's like
Multiple,
3
yeah.
episodes. It's like
Yeah.
this is what happened. This is the suspects. This is what we know. Like they can never cover it in one episode. They've always got to like really dive into it.
There were other suspects too. I mean, again, there's a lot there. So the
If we could
second
mix in,
Yeah,
like remember the woman at Wendy's that found a finger in her chili at Wendy's,
No.
Mhm.
yeah.
and then there was somebody that found like a mouse inside their beer can one time.
So the finger in the in
No,
the Wendy's
that was
chili,
Strange Brew.
the finger in the Wendy's chili turned out to be a hoax. That was
Right.
her husband's.
And I think
finger.
also the mouse inside the beer can was a hoax as well.
Was it a real finger?
Yes, it was an actual finger.
But she put it there.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of meat on this bone. So the other story that happened just today, I mean, just a few hours ago, let's see if I can get there, is Leslie Van Houten, who was one of the Manson killers who killed Tate and the LaBiancos?
LaBianca.
LaBianca.
It was in
Just
Silver
one
Lake.
Bianca.
LaBianca. Finally, she has been. This story has fascinated me for decades. She has been trying to get paroled forever, and again, we don't need to get into it now, but she has gone through a lot of. Yeah, I don't know if you want to call it rehabilitation, but she is. A lot of people are on her side saying, look, she is a different person now. This was a long time ago. She was manipulated. But I mean, I remember 20 years ago, this was controversial that she wasn't getting paroled. People were like, man, they should let
But
her
she
out.
actually killed somebody.
Yes. And I'm not
as
saying she
opposed to
should.
Manson, who did not.
Who did not.
Manson killed one person, but it was in like a drug
Okay.
deal.
Yeah, that's
He
true.
was. They always call.
I'm talking
him like
about
a
it in this
serial
case,
killer,
though.
but he was more of a cult leader.
Yeah.
He actually he killed one person at like something that was like not even associated with like the Tate LaBianca murders. I'm not defending him. He's a complete fucking maniac, but he only killed one person, and it was probably he would have gotten off on it anyway at the time.
I just couldn't believe. I think 10 years ago, this would have been a much bigger story. I think the fact that it's not a huge story says more about kind of where we are right now with our news cycle and stuff, because again, this is there's a lot of meat on this bone too. I mean, whether you believe in rehabilitation or second chances or not, and again, I'm not saying she should or shouldn't get out. I'm not an expert on this case, but I mean, in this picture, the three of them, she's on the far right, and then obviously on the left is her now. So I mean, obviously this
Didn't she
long
have
time
like
ago.
the swastika in her forehead as well in that picture, if I'm not mistaken?
I don't think so, because I don't think Manson got it until later.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of like when we did our Redonda Vaught episode. It's like, to a certain degree, if you were close enough to the problem, you know what? It's not like the Redonda Vaught. Let me take that back.
Yeah.
But really, what it comes down to is you gotta kind of manage who you're hanging with. If you're hanging around crackheads, but you're a decent person that gives to the homeless and all that stuff, but you hang out with crackheads on your downtime and you're there and you get associated with it, I'm not saying you should go to fucking prison, but you might have to take some lumps. And she hung out with a cult that killed people. So
Well, she's one of the killers.
She's the
Yeah.
one who killed the actual that pregnant girl.
Right. She's the murderer.
So she killed 2 people, actually.
Right.
So was she the one that killed Sharon? I didn't
Sharon
realize
Tate,
that.
I think so, yeah.
Or I didn't remember
think.
that. Yeah.
I thought they all took part in all of them, to be honest with you.
I mean, this.
Well,
this-
you know, you
I
have the
guess.
theory of the fatal blow, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you.
I mean, this story really, you know, and Tarantino kind of recognized this and used it in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as a framework. But this story really was the end of the 60s, right? And the beginning of the 70s. I mean, it really
It changed culture for sure.
it changed the whole culture. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge those 2 stories real quick because they're so big. At least to me, I thought they were huge, and they're just barely getting any play in the press. So for tonight's show, this is one where it's about the topic, because I do want to kind of discuss this, and there's a lot I don't know about it, but it's also a kind of lesson just how stories are reported and how things are discussed in our society right now, and just kind of this, in my opinion, dire situation we're in, where anything that comes out just is fodder, you know, and like facts we're like in a post-fact time frame now.
fuck facts.
So back on,
That's our next shirt.
that's a good shirt. Back on July 5th, this guy who, and again, I know I follow a lot of news stuff more than the average person. I had never heard of this guy before in my life, and he actually has a business here in Maryland. He's a lobbyist, founder of a think tank here in the DC area.
Is that
These
what they call lobbyist groups, think tanks?
They can
Okay.
be.
I was like, what is a think tank?
It's ironic because they don't think.
It's a place think tanks basically are, they come up with policy papers, and then they try to push, like, instead of going to a politician and saying, hey, I want to have chocolate in the water fountain, right?
Okay,
These people get down there, like, they design the water fountain, they figure out what temperature the milk needs to be, like what the supply, and then they present it to the lawmakers or to the lawmakers' staff as kind of like this fully formed thing that can just get inserted into a bill. You know, that's why these bills are so long. So, and these are the ones that develop it. That's why a lot of people say, like, most legislators never even read this stuff. A lot of them have no idea what's even in it. And legislators don't write bills anymore. I mean, very rarely, but it's usually their staff or these think tanks, you know, that come up with the verbiage. But this guy, his name's Gal.
By the way,
Luft.
real quick,
Yeah.
there is a connection to the Biden corruption, because if you recall, some of Biden's classified documents were found at the Biden Penn Center, which was a think
Think
tank.
tank.
Oh yeah.
There
Oh
you
yeah.
go.
I mean, the Clinton, what was the Clinton Global Initiative for whatever
Clinton
that was.
Foundation.
Global Foundation. You know, it's basically some are more legit than others. They can raise money, they can advocate, you know, they advocate for positions more than candidates. Typically, I think there's some like election law involved with that. Again, I'm not an expert on it. But the thing that interested me about this story was, one, it just kind of came out of left field. So I'm not going to get in. I mean, we can talk about it in this episode and rehash all of the updates on the Biden crime family saga, which is not hyperbole. I mean, if you bother to look into it, there's some pretty crazy things going on right now. Not that you know it by looking at the alphabet media. But this guy, Gal Luft, back on July 5th, released a video purportedly while he was on the run at a undisclosed location where he details circumstances that led to his arrest while he was in Cyprus, I think just a few weeks ago. He's a dual Israeli American citizen. He resides in the DC area. He also spends most of his time in Israel, and he was in Cyprus, Greece, I think for personal reasons, and was arrested by Interpol on an extradition order by the United States Department of Justice. He posted, I guess, the equivalent of bail and skipped town. So this was a few weeks ago. So he's on the run. Now, he released this video because, from what he says, from his perspective, his well-being is in danger. He says that he's going to be on the run the rest of his life. The U.S. Congress Commerce Subcommittee tried to get him in to testify a few weeks ago, and he did not show up because he's on the run, and last place he wants to go is the United States, because they want to, well, today, as of today, they did indict him, but when this video was made, he was fearing that he was going to be indicted. And basically his story is this, that he works for this think tank that specializes in basically like regional and global energy strategy and resource management and things along those lines. Again, not an expert, but this is what he does. And his contention is that he was involved with the CEFC, which is a Chinese energy firm that I believe is not even in existence anymore. But basically, he was
probably rebranded. Now they're something else,
it's probably something else. I mean, it was basically a subsidiary of the Chinese Communist Party, and it was lobbying for certain policies, again, globally, regionally, what have you, buying and selling energy futures, all this kind of stuff. And that he did business with them. And his contention is that not only that he was present and had an ear of people who were present with meetings that occurred between the Bidens and the CEFC as well, and that there was money being exchanged. And this was alarming to him because he says that this was after Biden had left the vice presidency, but before he was running for president. And once he found out that Biden was going to run for president, he voluntarily, thanks, Tom, there's a picture of him, he voluntarily contacted the Department of Justice and was like, hey, I need to let you guys know about this because this is a conflict of interest at best, and there could be some real shenanigans going on here. So the Department of Justice, and this was back in, I believe, spring of 2019 is when
he went to the DOJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the DOJ sent two DOJ folks and like 4 FBI agents, total of 6 people, to Brussels to meet with him. And interrogate's kind of a strong word, but to hear him out. And it was like a 2-day meeting. I mean, it went on and on. Now, since hearing this, I've done some other research, and having that many people go to interview one person is very unusual. Like that's not typical. And it kind of raised his alarm a little bit at the time, according to him. So he basically told them everything. He was expecting something to occur from it, but they never contacted him again. He never heard anything come up in the news. Biden ends up winning the presidency, and he somehow, I don't know if it was through one of the whistleblowers in the DOJ or whatever, but Comer's subcommittee got wind of this guy and contacted him to come testify. And again, then he got arrested in Cyprus a couple weeks ago, scared him off. That would definitely not make you want to go to Washington D.C. if the U.S. government's trying to get you. And then today, the U.S. government, the DOJ, actually went ahead and indicted him for arms trading, illegal arms trading, but mainly violations of FARA, which is the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which basically means if you are a U.S. citizen, you are not allowed to go and represent the interests of another country over those of the United States. So I can't go, to Europe and advocate for China on something at the detriment.
Even if you're a dual citizen?
That's a good question. No, I don't think so. Even if you're a dual citizen, without register, you can, but you have to register with the federal government of the United States. Yeah, so you can, but you have to register and say, look, I am working in my business. I am a foreign agent. I am a lobbyist for this foreign corporation, and I am representing them, and I'm representing their interests. And the reason they want you to register is so that the government can kind of keep track and make sure you're not, being traitorous, I guess, or what have you. So they do allow it, but you have to register. So now what Comer's subcommittee is really pushing Hunter on, and Biden's brother, is that they were taking money to represent Chinese, the CEFC interests, and getting tens of millions of dollars for it, and they never registered as foreign agents either. So it's very ironic that this guy Gal Luft now has been indicted for the for the very thing that somebody has been investigating Hunter Biden for over 5 years, and only came up with like a misdemeanor gun charge and what else?
Tax evasion.
And this is Comer's point is, look, and a lot of people that know a lot more about this than myself, but his point is like, look, there's no way that the people should accept this deal with Hunter Biden. There's no reason to accept it just because there was this deal made. It hasn't been consummated yet, and to let him off the hook for all this other shady stuff, because there's we have to, after 5 years, all of a sudden we got to get this wrapped up, is ridiculous. And I think that may be part of why this guy Gal Luft kind of decided now's a good time to come out. All that, and also because he skipped bail and he's running for his life apparently.
I think it's curious if I can just add something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're charging him with he didn't register as a foreign operative.
Yeah,
but that
Foreign
had
Agents Registration Act. Yeah.
That had gone past the statute of limitations. Very similar to what happened with the way that they charged Donald Trump, where he had the one thing that was past the statute of limitations, and then they went and got a what do you call it? The higher level crime.
Felony.
Felony. They went and got the felony crime and tacked that on, and kind of resurrected the one that had gone past the statute. So that's the same thing they did to him, where he didn't register. And then they went and took the weapons dealing thing and tacked that on top of it and added that to what they were he had already gone past the statute of limitations on that other thing.
And to hear him, if you listen to this video, we'll put a link here in the show. He names names. He doesn't just say 6 people four FBI agents and 2 people from DOJ came. He names who they are, like by name and description. And these are people, the interesting part is one of the FBI agents from the Baltimore field office. This part made my ears jump. His name's Joshua something. He's one of the ones that went to Brussels to meet with this guy, Gal Luft. He is also the one that went to our good friend, John Paul's shop and got the laptop.
Wow.
Coincidentally, same FBI agent. I thought that was pretty interesting.
You gotta have him on again soon.
Yeah.
It's like he's on the Protect Biden task force. Like that's a specific role.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, fly out to Brussels. Check that out. Go to this computer store. See what that's all about.
And it's, from
firemen.
From this guy Gal, like, here the thing is, it's like in the video he comes up with 3 questions, basically saying, like, look, you don't know me from Adam, but here's 3 questions I have. Like, why won't the government do these things? And the first one is, why don't they make the indictment paperwork public? I don't know if they did that today, but it's not unsealed, I believe. In other words, in an indictment, it has to also name names. It has to give specifics, times, places, all that stuff. So if he really is this horrible guy and these things are true, why not make the indictment public? He's the subject of it and he's okay with it. The second thing is, why doesn't the FBI release all of the meeting minutes from his meeting with these 6 people in Brussels back in 2019? He's requested that. They won't release the minutes from that. Let's see the notes that these people took. And third is, why would Interpol, working on behalf of the DOJ, arrest him in Cyprus if he was this big of a threat, where he resides in Israel most of the time? Why go to Cyprus when Israel has a very strong and very storied extradition history with the United States and vice versa? And the implied reason is because it's weak sauce, that the Israelis would be like, you can't, what are you charging this guy with? That's kind of the connotation that, he's like, so they waited for him to go someplace like Cyprus where they could just scoop him up off the street, and they don't have nearly the safeguards, and he doesn't have citizenship there, which is why they were able to arrest him. So, and I'm almost done with my initial diatribe here, but the thing that interests me about this story so much is, one, obviously it ties into the whole Biden crime family stuff that people dismiss as a conspiracy, but it's like, man, there's an awful lot of smoke and a lot of fire and a lot of people on the record now under oath saying things. This is not a PP tape that we're talking about. This is like people on the record now. But it is fascinating to me to see how this story is just totally ignored by the party press. Like, you literally, I bet you there's people that will see this that have never even heard of this before, which is just shocking. I mean, if true, if you look at this thing,
I never heard of it until right now.
Yeah, so. I'm just saying, but if true,
I never heard of this particular guy until today.
Yeah,
and I didn't hear about him until like 3 days ago. I didn't hear about him until like 3 days ago. But here's the thing, and just from a perspective standpoint.
No, hold on.
Yeah.
Isn't it ironic in these times, in the topics of our shows, that we've got a guy named Gal?
It's Galate. That's what his name is. It's Israelian.
Oh, Gate?
Galate.
Galate. Oh, so Gal is short. Like,
it's short for something. It's not like a guy whose name is Guy. That's his name.
Like Jim for Jimmy or something.
Yeah.
Way to suck the funny right out of that.
No, it's still funny. It's still good.
What if his pronouns were like Zerzim or something?
No, they're Guy Gal.
But the thing is, the press that is really, the job of the press in our country right now is to protect the establishment. That's their job. And so they're going now, this guy Galette, whatever, Luft, he's public enemy number 1. I mean, I was, in the New York Times, I don't know if you guys saw these, I didn't send these other links, but I'll put them in here. You got the New York Times, Washington Post. Oh, this guy's like a, disreputable arms dealer. The Republicans where are they getting these whistleblowers from that are these corrupt, horrible? In other words, they're just going right in. I mean, if you're accused of something in our society today, you did it. Like, according to, you guys still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Now my screen just went blank for a second.
Looking at the guy, he's very John Paul McIsaac, and he does not look like a super spy, badass, shoot with 2 guns, bam, 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 boom, boom, boom.
Well, plus this guy's got a good reputation. He's been on the scene doing exactly what he does for like 15 years now. You can look up, and I did, go on YouTube, go on the internet. I mean, this footage here, that the picture Tom's showing, that's from like 12 years ago. The guy doesn't even look like
one
that.
of your targets?
Yeah, funny how Tom had a picture of
He
him at the
does look
ready
a
like
little
that so fast.
Lords of War.
That
Yeah.
looks right out of a dossier.
My point is, this guy did not just arrive on the scene. What he does for a living, he's been doing in government and right out in the open, giving speeches, meeting with people for almost 2 decades. So it's not like some random, rando guy out there. Anyway, so that's one side of it. But if what he's saying is true, if this guy's story is true, it is not just probably the largest scandal in the United States political history. It is earth-shatteringly hard. Like it will change world history. Like it is an enormous story. And yet you wouldn't know it. Like they won't even talk about the Tylenol people.
Now,
But,
hold
you
on.
know,
Are you
yeah.
saying it's a huge story because he initially tried to out Biden about what his antics he would do, and basically title tell or whatever, whistleblow, however you want to call it, put
It
Biden's
means-
shit on the table in the beginning, but then now coming back in order to get him back for attempting to do that, to out Biden, that they're trying to charge him on these a bit
No.
ridiculous charges.
Well,
Is that
it's
what you're
both.
saying?
Well,
It's-
they're attacking his character. They're vilifying him because he's
a
like a
cover-up.
smoking gun. And it's ironic, like you said, Mike, what they're actually going after him for, whether it's a fabricated charge or not. Like I'm looking at this quote from the prosecutor, and it's hilarious to me that this is what they're going after the guy for. It
Can you
says
read
he
it?
it says he subverted foreign agent registration laws in the US to seek to promote Chinese policies by acting through a former high-ranking US government official.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the balls of all balls to
Yeah.
go after this guy for the quote exact same thing they should be going after Biden for.
Right.
Well,
It's the exact same thing. It has to
That's
do
the-
with Chinese
it's-
influence. It has to do or Ukrainian influence. I mean, that's what they're saying, and it's not just this guy. It's all of these DOJ whistleblowers that have come out saying, look, they've been dragging their feet on this. We were told not to go after him. We were told not to even dig into that.
Yep.
And this guy's basically like John Paul MacIsaac told us, they took away the laptop in 2019, right? Spring of 2019.
Correct.
This guy came out of the woodwork at the time about this Biden stuff as well, and they buried it.
Well,
And now
yeah.
they're trying to bury him. And they also, I remember when that kid just leaked, I forget where he was. I think he was in Massachusetts, the young fella that he leaked out all of the American corruption with our war dealings with Ukraine and some of our strategies, and the media went after him just as badly, and they celebrated the law enforcement act of catching him, of finding him and catching him. And this is just more of the same, but just the brazenness of it. And like you said, Mike, it's gotta be because the media has a different role now. They're not asking questions. They're not covering these stories.
Yeah, they are not the media, man.
If I may if you'll allow me, the parallels between this guy and John Paul are like they were saying that John Paul was a Russian spy. Nothing about John Paul MacIsaac resembles Jason Bourne. Like this guy also, I'm not gonna fear this guy walking down the street. Like it's so funny that they just throw it out there, spaghetti against the wall. If it sticks, it sticks.
It's information dominance, man. They've got the channels. That's the whole.
It's more like information overload. They just keep throwing it out there until you go, oh, it's sticking to the wall.
It's propaganda.
Just give up.
Also,
since disappear and you just take it in. It's infuriating. Anyway, sorry.
No, I was going to say even Fox News seems to be like my mom watches it, and I remember for like the last 5 days it seems like whenever I go out there they're talking about the cocaine in the White House story. Like, why are you covering that? That's a distraction. We don't care about that. I don't care whose coke it was. It's just funny. That's the
Everybody knows
punchline.
whose Coke it was.
That's what I'm saying. The punchline is too obvious.
Wait, whose
to even
Coke was it?
spend-
It was clearly Hunter's.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
no, but the thing is, it's a distraction from what Mike is talking about. They're not covering
Yeah.
this
It's
whole
the-
investigation the
it's
way
the
they should be
submarine.
covering it.
It's the submarine that they knew blew up on Sunday, and
Right.
they carried on the story till Thursday. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden gets a slap on the wrist for tax evasion, which Al Capone went to prison for. So what the fuck?
Well, it's
Again-
kind of it's like the should Hillary get charged? Hillary didn't get charged, but Donald Trump
Yes.
got charged. You know,
Yeah, but it's worse than that. Like, think about like the investigation. Like, I think it's Jim Jordan, or is it Comey? Maybe it's maybe the guy in
Comer.
charge is Comey. But those hearings have been going on for a while, and you see very, very little coverage of what's even
yeah.
though
Yeah, but
what's
if you want to try Trump, it's like
Well-
fucking 4 days.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When they did the impeachments, it was all over the news constantly. When they did Russia, it was all over the news constantly. When they covered his plane taking off from Florida to go to New York. What about the stupid January 6th hearings with Cheney's daughter? That
Yeah.
was on all of those media channels.
Totally.
Like,
They had some prime time.
it was prime
with that.
time. And this
here's
is
the thing.
and this is our sitting president and shenanigans he was up to internationally with either dubious governments or actual enemies, which is what they're going after this guy Luft for. It's like, Mike, like you said, it's the biggest story there is, and no one knows about it.
Can I just make sure? So, if I'm understanding it, so basically his story just corroborates the laptop. Is there
Yes.
something more
Yes.
with him?
Well, he's not to bring up your reference to Wire, but he's a legit eyewit, man. Like he names names. He was in meetings. Like he's an eyewitness.
He
Like
just brings more to the same.
right. I mean,
Starts.
it's the equivalent of, well, it's not really an equivalent. He knows the players. He knows
He knows where the
locations.
bodies are buried.
He knows where the bodies are buried. And the
He's got
fact
the
that
receipts.
he had no compelling interest or reason to come forward. And Zeus is right. It is like John Paul McIsaac, because this guy came forward, believe him or not. Again, you don't have to believe him. I'm just looking at like what we know. This guy came forward out of his own free will and contacted the Department of Justice and said, I got to talk to you guys about this.
It's very much like the John Paul McIsaac.
You know,
This guy who's about to run for president, there's some stuff you might want to know.
Yeah, like I feel he actually says, he's like, I just feel like it's my duty. And the press that is not the press, again, this is the kind of the thing that people need to start understanding. The establishment in Washington, the people that are on television, the people that control media, entertainment, the people that control the education of your children, all of it, it's not it's all the same. They're all the same people. It's like, this is not a we the people situation. These are top-down authoritarian tyrant type people, Democrat Party, the party, that are playing hardball and exerting an immense amount of control over our society, and everyone's just sort of like not seeing it. I don't. It's hard to explain. I think people feel it. No, they're not seeing it. I think a lot of people feel it, but they can't put words to it. They don't know how to describe it. They don't understand the mechanism of it. But the unrest is palpable. Like people know something is not right, and so instead of having what we used to call reporters jumping on the story and being like, man, what's up with this guy? Like, can we get a hold of him? And it's just zip, let's let it go away. I mean, that's disturbing. I mean, now I'm supposed to believe this guy's the bad guy from this Justice Department and this FBI, who just me as some dumb dude, living in Maryland. I've got like 25 examples of proven lies from them just over the last like 3 or 4 years. I mean, give me a break, man. I mean,
Can't
I just,
these
it's
FBI
crazy.
guys get a? Can they be charged with like obstruction of justice and dereliction of duty?
Absolutely. They take an oath.
Dereliction, that's a good word.
Yeah, they take an oath. I mean, the one thing that I've kind of come to realize, and I don't know which candidate, I don't know if this was Trump, I don't know if this was DeSantis or somebody else. I have no idea who came up with this idea. But this idea of decentrifying power in DC, it's what has to happen. Like the bureaucracy in DC, from all these department agencies, education, agriculture, land management, homeland security, the FBI, the CIA, all these agencies, they're all based in their power structure based in DC. Like, why isn't the Department of Education out in Kansas, right? Where they can like go to school with regular people and not just be inside the Beltway. Why is the FBI headquarters, like, why don't they have one out on the West Coast? Why is
Doesn't
the
that worry
Department of
you though,
Education
if
in
they did
DC?
that? Because then isn't it easier to keep an eye on all of them if they're all collected together? If they're all spread out, then you're not going to know what's going on.
But the point is, if you're living out in Idaho and you're a federal government employee and that's where the headquarters for the FBI is, the people that you're a big fish in a small pond. In DC, everybody is. I mean, it's so incestuous, and it's so easy to control because everybody is centralized. It's, again, I came to DC, what, 7-8 years ago, 9 years ago. I grew up in Baltimore and all that stuff, which is a whole other country compared to DC. So I see it. A lot of people around here, they don't see it. This DC is like no other place in the country. It just is. It's different. There's no comparison. It is a unreality down here. I always use this example, like back in 2007 when we had the whole housing crisis and the recession and all this stuff. There were still like 20 to 30 construction cranes in the skyline of DC building buildings.
There were antennas.
I'd go down to Richmond, none. Baltimore, things came to a screeching halt. Philadelphia, maybe one or two. I mean, it wasn't even a speed bump. The 2007, 2008 thing wasn't even a speed bump in DC. It just wasn't. That's not like anywhere else. So anyway, my point is, we need to spread this out. It's a whole country. Like, there's no reason it all has to be in DC, because these people all go to the same cocktail parties. They all say the same things. They move from government to media. They move from media into government. Jen Psaki, she didn't even go to journalism school, right? I mean, she's not even. What is she doing?
In the sense that all those FBIs were going to Twitter, which was in San Francisco, and Hollywood's in Los Angeles, and the media and advertising are in New York City. So all these things are kind of spread around, but they seem to be marching lockstep together.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying that just physically breaking them up is the answer, but I think it's someone else's idea.
Live in a world where you don't have to be there. You can be anywhere.
Yeah, with the technology now.
Anyway,
like, listen, I just want to say, and I've said it before, it's not going to be a surprise for our listener, but I don't like Trump
what's Trump have to do with anything?
Well, no. Here's what I'm getting at. But
I mean, he literally has nothing to do with any of this.
A pragmatist to go. He didn't cause wars. Like, there's facts that you cannot avoid. And here we are. The whole time that Trump was here, no wars started. Now we've got, and I hate this because I am the liberal. I'm just not the liberal now. I'm so worried for our future. Again, I'll lean back to what Jack says about, I think it's already over. I still hold hope, but like, I'm just blown away at how they just brashly gloss over facts. Like everybody's seen a picture of fucking Hunter Biden in his fucking red fucking Richard Simmons gym shorts, looking fucking stoned out of his mind, and everybody just pretends like that doesn't exist. It's
no, they changed the narrative. There was some lady on that horrible
narrative of a guy.
No, the whole Hunter Biden thing
wearing Richard Simmons shorts.
No, you did it with the underwear thing. They made the Hunter Biden story just about his drug addiction.
Right.
They made it about that. And one chick on The View said this is really a story of a father's love, and the audience applauded.
Yeah.
Like, they're so clever. I mean, like, now even Hunter Biden's story now is just about, well, he owed some back taxes. He lied on a gun application, and he's got a serious drug problem, but his father loves him anyway. Like, that's the national story that most people know, and they don't even know any of this stuff when it comes to the money and the countries that he was working with.
And no one cares. I mean, I'm saying whatever. I mean, I don't want anyone to have to be addicted to anything, but the story is not his horrible behavior and all that stuff. They so easily just ignore all the other stuff that's on the laptop. You know what I mean? It's like they just like you said, Jack, they're like, oh, this is just about drugs and hookers. And you know, the one that what was the one that came like 2 weeks ago? There was like another dump of stuff from the laptop, and one was this email or text chain between Hunter and this prostitute, where she was like, it's too many. You already have too many people. You already have too many girls over there. There's already like 18 girls, and she's like, I'm not coming. It's too many girls over there. And then 12. And then the other one where he takes, and I don't even know how you do it. He takes his phone and he takes a selfie of himself driving 174 miles an hour while smoking a crack pipe in his Porsche, like while he's driving. Like 2 pictures of that hit. Anyway, that's all salacious. That doesn't upset me.
I just add something.
Well, it's more distraction. It's just more distraction.
So what Jack said, when people are saying, oh, well, Joe, he's such a great father because he loves Hunter. But Joe keeps saying that he didn't talk to Hunter about his business dealings, right?
Right.
At some point, if you're a good father, shouldn't you talk to your son about their business dealings, especially when it looks like people are trying to take advantage of your son because of who his family is?
It's so...
He didn't love him enough to sit down with him and say, hey, Hunter, you better watch out. People are going to be trying to snitch in and get you. And you better watch out for those. There's a lot of things he should have sat down and talked to Hunter about.
Well, they also have photos of Biden with his business associates and Hunter, like playing golf and smoking cigars. And
so that was probably a lie. But I'm just saying the whole thing it's a ridiculous cover to say that he's a loving father. That doesn't even make any sense.
The commercials when we were a kid, where the father walks in the room and he's like, "What is this? This is marijuana," and he's like, "Where did you learn this?" And the kid's like, "I learned it from watching you, Dad."
Yeah.
But again, it's one of these things where there's so many layers of this, and that's why I said this whole gal Lutz, what's his name, Luft story.
Luft.
It's Luft. It's an interesting story in of itself, but it's like a study of what happens, like the life cycle of stories in our culture today. How if they are detrimental to the party, they get squashed. The people who are bringing up the points get demeaned and arrested and stuff like that. This guy's facing 100 years in prison.
Yeah.
And then, but if it's not hurting the party, or if it hurts an opponent of the party, it gets fluffed up, it gets raised up. It's like, we don't even need facts. I mean, we get 2 ridiculous impeachments, whatever. I mean, again, the whole thing. And when Zeus, when you're like, I don't like Trump, and I'm like, it has nothing to do with Trump. They don't like Trump, not because of his tweets, not because Trump is a non-establishment type. They can't control him. He already has his own money. he doesn't need the DC establishment. He actually is following, his oath of office. And that doesn't happen very often anymore. Like that doesn't happen a lot. And they can't have that because he is looking under all the rocks and he's opening all the dusty doors, and they don't want that. That's not good. That is not relevant to their interests. So he has to be destroyed. It's bare knuckles, man. And in this whole thing, it just kills me now that we're again getting into this other election cycle. And people still think this is like Democrats and Republicans and liberals and conservatives. That is over. Like that is done, man. That is so over. This is a monstrously large. Hey, man, how's it going?
Hey,
this is like a monstrously large bureaucracy versus everybody else. That's what it is. Those other descriptors are outdated and irrelevant these days. They really are. Democrat, Republican, like whatever.
So at this point, it's pretty much you're either establishment or you're anti-establishment.
Or you're pro-Americanism, by that I mean like you believe in things like individual liberty and consent of the governed and one person, one vote. These people don't believe, like when you equate those two things. I mean, like I get it, but the people that actually voted for him and are going to do it again, they don't see that he represents what he does. They think that it's just business as usual. This is still America and I'm still free and the government still keeps the lights on. So they have no idea.
And Mike, Mike, what do you call this single monolithic political regime?
The party.
There you go.
Yeah.
I needed the soundbite. Good.
The party. Yes.
Yeah, but when the same government power structure controls all of the industry and the media and entertainment and education, I mean, last time I checked, that's fascism.
Yes.
That's
when
what
the government controls the means of industry.
They control everything. And as far as who the real they is, I don't like. I think the politicians are puppets. I mean, I think that they get paid well. That's it. They're not actually the ones behind the true power of this. I mean, who owns the media companies? What do they get out of it? Like, is it really like Biden and the Democratic Party, or is it above that?
Yeah, I don't think that there's someone there like.
No, I think there's. I don't think it's one person, Mike, but I wonder how much it has to do with the shit that we hear from the WEF.
Yeah,
really do.
Of course.
Here's my thing. There was a pleasant time where there was a gray area in the middle. And whatever powers it be they Republican, be they Democrat, they've managed to diminish that middle portion of society and fully pull it over to one side or the other. I don't know where I stand anymore. I mean, part of me likes RFK Jr. There's a part of me that likes DeSantis. It's really not anymore. It's very frustrating that there's such parity amongst the groups. I like that middle, like we're all old enough that we know the Ross Perot days, where I like that middle group that can take a chunk out of it and kind of fucking mix shit up and make people think. But we don't have that middle group anymore. Who's running for independent right now? I love Tulsi Gabbard, but do you know who's running for independent right now? I don't.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even
Joe
kidding.
Manchin might
He's
run.
going to go Republican now.
He's not. Trump is no friend of the establishment Republican
Party.
Party by any.
If you were to run independent,
Not at all.
I'd actually be interested in that.
I'm just saying he's not.
Yeah,
the Republican Party does not like Donald Trump. I'm saying the people that run the Republican Party are not fans of Donald Trump. Period.
No, the
No, he's
whole
a
that's why I
magnet
said
for fucking
it's establishment versus
Correct.
anti-establishment.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta
that's what it is.
if you stop using those labels, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, things start to make a lot more sense.
And you
Like,
just
you gotta
you just go, what's best for the country.
it's like whether you're doing something in the best interest of the people, right? In general. And I'm not talking about individual little hang-ups and all that stuff. I'm talking about liberty, consent of the governed. Like, it's in the Constitution, it's in the Bill of Rights, pretty easy to look up. I'm not talking about like, man, I need these people to decide things the way I want it to be. That's not what I'm talking about. But right now, we've got a legislature that after COVID, we had proxy voting where for years we didn't even have the legislators showing up to vote anymore. You had legislators that were giving their vote as a proxy to other people. How are those legislators constituents being represented exactly? They're supposed to be there to represent.
Oh, hold on, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm hearing from one of my correspondents that you just say stuff.
I know. I got you. Welcome, Darcy. How you doing, man? Has your blood pressure been better since not being on the show lately?
Man, it's been great.
Yeah, where you, hey, Darcy, where you been for 100 episodes? We still have you on some of the merch.
You were making residuals off. Yeah.
God.
Exactly. Darcy's behind all the sales.
What do they call that in sports? The name, image, likeness contract. We need to do a NIL contract with Darcy.
We've got an NDS with Darcy.
I mean, in like 50 years, people are gonna be like, man, I have the original Foz t-shirt with Darcy on it, and it's gonna be like on Amazon for 10 grand or something. I'm telling you.
We're fucking killing it. We got 50 members now, Darcy. You could have been in on this.
Yeah, you could be. Well, just real quick, just jumping back. And the reason, just for posterity, because we can go on to another topic if we want or whatever, but I just needed to, I felt like I just wanted to talk about this subject in the moment, because like on a lot of our shows, I love going back and looking at things from like 7 months ago, when, you know, like something hits the news now and then we were already talking about it like 7 or 8 months ago. And this is that all over again. I'm like, even though I don't even have my full head around it, I'm not sitting here as an expert. I'm not trying to say I know everything, but I've got a lot of questions. Hit like and subscribe. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I'm not an idiot either.
I agree.
Anyway,
I'm sorry, I was agreeing. Yeah, you know, I don't like where it's at. I am, again, I've said it before, I'm a Democrat, but the Democrat that I am, that Jack knows, I worked on Democratic programs. Some of those Democratic programs I would have nothing to do with now. Like Human Rights Campaign Fund, they've gone fucking bonkers. Like they were very much a pro. What?
No, just Tom's.
No.
I'm listening.
No. You can talk, Tom. I'm not saying any more.
Tangent alert.
No.
But I worked for, like, Human Rights Campaign Fund is one that kind of offends me now. Like, they've become the QTIA. You want to talk LGB? I'm all about it. LGB is great. QTIA is kind of fringy and kind of loud and kind of needs the oil and all that. I get when people say, why do you care? And it's like, because I just do. The indoctrination of kids, and you can tell me all day long, would you rather have a dead child or a child that's transitioned? Well, guess what?
The tangent alert is awesome right now.
It is really great. But at the end of it, most people that go through transitions, at least my understanding, commit suicide. So I don't get your argument.
Oh, wait, what are we talking about now? Like, I don't know how did we
Send your messages.
Man,
yeah,
Dad,
right.
just so you understand, I am in a completely giddy mood, and
I
I
know.
can go on all kinds of tangents.
Look,
This episode might just be called Tangent Alert.
I got to tell you guys this because I live in the craziest county in the United States. So, and we've talked about some of this stuff before, but a few weeks ago at a Montgomery County, Maryland school board meeting, there's been a group of a lot of people of Muslim faith that have been lobbying to be able to opt out of certain things in the school that deal with like teaching transgenderism and things along those lines, whatever, all the stuff that's in the news. So they had some of these kids, and some of them were like 7, 8, 9-year-old little kids, you know, and they're like, yeah, it's not, it goes against my religion, and I want to be able to opt out of this, and blah, 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 blah. And one of the board members said that the exact word was like, they're supporting white supremacy. These are like small, like grade school level little Muslim kids, and this board member like that. I'm like, what planet are we living on?
Yeah,
right
no,
now?
yeah,
Like,
no. What they said was they said something like now that the far right and the white supremacists who always go along with the far right, you know, period. They said that they're now co-opting the Muslims to go against the trans, like it's the white supremacists that are encouraging the Muslims to disapprove of sexualizing their young children in public school. Like it's got nothing to do with the Muslims' own religion or their own agency.
Right. Or they're being controlled.
Right. No,
So
they're being controlled because because we can't have the Muslims doing something on their own that maybe finds this whole Soji thing objectionable. It's got to be the white guy's fault that's making the Muslims not approve of, you know, their kids learning about gay sex while they're in 4th grade.
And you just totally steal the agency from this little kid. Like,
right.
It's like he has a whatever, but the optics of
the
having
kids'
this
parents, the kids' parents are the ones showing up to these. Yeah.
It's like you just totally deny them any respect or anything. But just the optics of having this little kid, maybe he was 7, maybe he was 8, saying his spiel, and then having this lady be like, yeah, this is like white supremacy. I was just like, you've got to be, and everyone's like, yeah, of course.
But Mike,
I mean, people in my county think that that's completely reasonable.
No, Mike, this happened with the whole the recent Supreme Court ruling about the affirmative action being applied at Harvard. They said, you know, I was on Facebook and someone, you know, threw out all of the exaggerated, oh, this is just the white man and all this. And I said the lawsuit was brought by Asian American students. Like they were the ones with the gripe. And they said, yeah, but that's because the white conservatives put them up to it. Like suddenly the Asians had no agency. They had no complaint until they were cajoled. They were coerced.
I think Darcy is remembering why he left the show now.
Well, Darcy, so what's going on?
As he shows up, there's just a bunch of talk about white supremacy.
Yeah, we should have done the car. We should have done the car episode tonight. But what's been going on with you, man? Is everything cool, or like what's happening?
Oh,
you got your own show now?
If you do, yeah.
You know, I've thought about it. Nah, I've just mostly been focusing on work, you know.
Yes.
Trying to steer my son in the right directions that I think he should, you know, learn how to code and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, do all these projects with him just so he can learn the hierarchy of how things work, and you know, but he doesn't want anything to do with it, but I'm trying.
Really?
Yeah.
But the thing is, coding is like one of those things, like when people talk about, like if you go to business school, it's, even if you don't end up in it, I mean, this is just my opinion.
Right. I think everyone should understand
the logic behind it. Yeah, it's math, it's logic, it's like,
no matter what you do, if you have an idea, you need to understand what's going on, how it works. And when you hire other people, the main thing is to not get ripped off. You know, that's the main thing, you know, because anyone can have a great idea, whatever, you do a lot of construction and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So you might have some kind of great idea and I don't know how to make an aperiodic tile or something new or whatever. You need an app written for it. And you don't know how to write the app, but you need to know, what's the process.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just want to make sure he learns all that stuff.
Yeah, good luck, man. How old's your kid now?
Just turned 7.
He just turned what?
7.
You got some time. I think.
Yeah,
maybe.
you gotta look.
I thought you were gonna say he's like 17 or something.
Get him to code.
Well, when I think I was 8, I was, trying to teach myself basic programming. I had so I think I was in 3rd grade? Either 8 or 9.
His kid for Harvard.
I was in 3rd grade. I had finished math within the first 4 weeks of school. So they were trying to figure out what they needed to do with me. And Forest Edge Elementary, they had just opened up a computer lab, and that's where they placed me for math every day. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, good luck. Hopefully he'll get into the swing of things.
You know what you should do?
I mean, it's funny. It's like there are a lot of things that are like, man, I was ahead of him at this, but then there are many things that I look at him and I'm like, man, I didn't know anything about that. I mean, he knows manipulate people. Like I didn't know anything about that when I was.
Wait, are we talking about me?
No, we're talking about myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's really
another 7-year-old brain.
Yes.
Same
thing. Yeah.
He knows people. He can read people. He can make people free. He can make people happy. He's a smoozer. He loves the ladies, and he's a good-looking kid,
Yeah. That's the thing is like with kids is like meeting them not halfway, but kind of like finding what they're good at and advancing that, like getting them to go and understand that. You should, Darcy, you should have him watch the BBS episode, which is still one of my top 3 favorite episodes we've ever done, because I think he would definitely want
trying to sell that episode for fucking years, man.
I love that episode.
That's a great.
You were talking about our Commodore 64s, man.
Big 20s, yeah, TI 99. I don't know. That's
the BBS episode is actually going to make it into the National Archives.
I think so. Library of Congress, 100%.
Shameless promotion of a show that needs a lot of promotion.
Well, I know Jack who's that kitty cat? What's his?
This is Grayer. This is his, his episodely appearance.
How big is his head? I've seen you, and you have regular size hands, and his head, massive.
No, him not big. Him only 13 pounds.
That's a good cat.
That's a big cat.
He's not that big.
I know we don't have Jack here, but does anyone else have anything they want to get into, or because we have been on for a little while, but I don't want to prematurely,
Gotta wait for Jack. So we'll just sit here and talk uncomfortably.
I'm gonna be at the I'm going to be away at the beach next week, so I don't think I'm going to make it on. I may, but I just don't know.
I guess I'm up, and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. That
doesn't stop me, man.
Really like to talk about, but not appropriate for the show.
So hey Darcy, did you hear about the Tylenol guy that died? The guy who was the suspect in the Tylenol poisonings, he died yesterday.
1982.
Back in like
82.
82. Yeah, he was the only suspect, but they never he was not the only suspect. He was the only one who was convicted, but it wasn't for the killings. I just didn't know.
No. The Tylenol killer guy. There's like probably, I would say, no less than like 10 suspects.
Mm-hmm.
Like
there's even a woman suspect.
There's like 2.
2 women suspects. Wow.
No, 2 suspects.
Oh.
My theory is it didn't have any. It wasn't a person. It was just a thing. Like either happened at the factory.
That's what I think.
Or
this is the story I remember about the whole Tylenol thing. There was a couple. Let's see, I guess the husband of the couple, he ends up getting sick or something. I guess it's arsenic or something. It was
cyanide.
I do believe it was arsenic, yeah.
right, and so I can't remember if he died or not, but
no, he just died. He just died.
No, but I'm
The
talking
first
about
victim.
This happened back, like I don't know, it was the early. I think I was like
that's a long play.
It happened in 82
for this murder
or something like that. Anyway,
it took him 50 years.
And the wife was like, I don't know what happened, blah blah blah. But you know, my husband's died or he's sick or whatever. And what they found was that she had several bottles of Tylenol in the house. One was in the medicine cabinet, and it was the one that had the, I guess, compromised Tylenol.
Yeah, and I think there was like 2 or 3 that like one of the bottles had like 2 or 3 that were clearly
and she was using the Tylenol for herself.
Yeah, taking advantage of it.
You know, that was not
because how would you know?
Wow.
Well, we're gonna do an episode on it, so
okay.
All right. Well, we lost Jack. Hopefully he didn't have any Tylenol earlier. And
he was like, you guys
yeah,
to get some Tylenol.
just
like all of our listeners.
oh, is that the fire alarm again? All right. It's time to go.
No, Mike, that's on the Rogan show down the hall.
Oh, okay.
At the fine establishment, Patriots Pub and Grill in Fairfax, Virginia.
They have great burgers.
I'll do it because I think I remember what Jack says. Well, guys, I think we've been on long enough.
Yeah,
I think that it's time we wrap things up.
I do too.
You guys just say stuff.